Alright, now for the next weapon. That weapon that uses multiple rounds. The grenade gun. What happened to launcher? M79 Grenade Launcher. An American-made weapon that is compatible with various types of ammo. Alrighty then. So yep, uses the same 3 classic rounds from the first 2 Resident Evil games, has explosive, has acid, has flame. They got rid of the freeze rounds after Resident Evil 3 for some reason, don't know why, probably because they thought it was too powerful. But yep, you got the 3 classic rounds here. Right now it's loaded with explosive rounds. And the order I'm going to test it is explosive, flame, then acid. So let's go ahead and test it out real quick. So there's explosive. There's flame. And there's acid. That's kind of weird because all the rounds have the same sound and kind of have the same blast, but somewhat of a different effect. The explosive rounds, it scatters out like bearing rounds. Acid just simply explodes, and flame, you see the flame after the explosion. So, yep, those are the 3 rounds for you. I'm going to test all 3 of them on the same enemy, which is going to be Mr. X. Alright, so that took 9 explosive rounds to take down Mr. X Tyrant. Now, the problem is that with explosive weapons, he tends to block them with his arms, as you saw right there. So that probably took more rounds than it could have if I made it to where he never put his arms up. So it could take a variety of shots if you want to use the grenade launcher on him. It's actually not a bad idea to use a handgun on him. He's not that powerful of an enemy. It actually only takes about 2 clips of the handgun D to take him down. So yeah, probably not the best test in the world, but the grenade launcher is a pretty powerful weapon, and any other enemy, in my opinion, is gonna go down in like no more than 2 shots. So that's why I decided to use a Mr. X Tyrant for this. Alright, so 9 explosive rounds there, so I will deduct that it will take no less than 6 grenade rounds, and hopefully no more than 12. Could be completely wrong. It'll probably take a lot more than that. If you fire from very far away, I don't even know if it's going to do anything to him because he's going to have plenty of time to block it. Alright, well, that is it for the grenade launcher with explosive rounds. Now let's try flame rounds. Alright, so it took 14 flame rounds to defeat the Tyrant, and there were hardly any blockings right there. So when it comes to sheer firepower, the explosive rounds are much more powerful than the flame rounds. But that doesn't mean the flame rounds are a bad round. They are more useful for certain enemies in this game. If you remember those ivy plants from Resident Evil 2, they make a return in this game, as well as spiders from Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3. The flame rounds are very good for both of them. Any other normal enemy, flame round's gonna do a pretty good job. For this enemy, however, doesn't do very much to him. Alright, so that is it for the flame rounds. Now let's try the last round, acid rounds. Alrighty, so it took 15 acid rounds to defeat Mr. X. Now, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe when he's in the middle of an animation like that, maybe the damage is a little suppressed. I don't know. There was only one block right there, and it took more than the flame rounds and the explosive rounds. So either that means that I did do something wrong, or turns out the acid rounds are the weakest round when it comes to sheer firepower, which once again is very interesting because in the classic Resident Evil games, the acid round was the most powerful in most cases. Alright, well, the grenade launcher itself can be used on any other enemy that's not like huge like that, and they're gonna go down pretty fast. It's really good against hunters, I've found that out. I used it against hunters. It usually only took one shot, sometimes two. Alright, well, that is it for the acid rounds, and that is it for the grenade launcher. Alright, now for the next weapon, the Magnum. Smith & Wesson M19. The M19 can handle 357 Magnum rounds once the barrel is extended from 4 to 6 inches. Alright, they're getting pretty technical with the weapon descriptions here. You weapon buffs probably know what they're talking about. Alright, so let's test the Magnum out. Without getting killed. Alright, so it has a very slow firing rate. Pretty typical because it's a Magnum. And the reload speed is pretty slow too. But in exchange for that, it has a massive firepower. So, I'm gonna test this Magnum on the Mr. X Tyrant as well. Alright, so it took 12 shots to defeat the Mr. X Tyrant. It might have taken 11 because one of those shots I feel like it didn't hit, and that's when he charged me. So 11 to 12 shots to take down a Mr. X Tyrant with the Magnum. Now, that was necessary, however, I recommend that you save that Magnum and its bullets for the final boss fight, which is the Neo Tyrant. The reason why I suggest that is because that fight has 2 phases, and the Magnum is the most powerful weapon in the game besides the infinite rocket launcher, which you unlock. So I definitely would recommend the Magnum on that final boss fight. Otherwise, be my guest, use it on the regular Tyrant like I just did. The only thing the regular Tyrant is good for is to get ammo boxes like the one he just dropped, really. Except this fight, you have to defeat him. In most cases, you could just skip him if you wish. Alright, well, that is it for the Magnum. Now, before I conclude it, however, I learned that in this game there were going to be 2 Magnums, but the other one was dropped from the final game. I don't remember why, something to do with the length of the barrel or how unrealistic it is, but it was dropped. It was called the Custom Magnum. I don't know what model it was. It's probably the M79 for all I know. There is a way to get it, however. You have to use a GameShark code for the PlayStation 1. Now, the thing about my emulator here is I am able to input GameShark codes, but for some reason, this game really doesn't like GameShark codes because whenever I try to input them, they don't seem to work. Alright, that is it for the Magnum. Alright, so check this out. Somehow the code's now working. Maybe it's because I played through the game a bit. But yep, I just entered the code for the Custom Magnum, and here it is. This is the Custom Magnum. As you can see, it looks exactly like the regular Magnum, just with a longer barrel. Huh. Doesn't that kinda... The description of the regular Magnum, it says it can handle 357 Magnum rounds once the barrel is extended from 4 to 6 inches. So, is this the result if you extend the barrel like that? The Custom Magnum? The description doesn't change for some reason. I guess because it was dropped from the final version. But yeah, it's the same description. Has more bullets though, that's interesting. So let's test it out real quick, I guess. Alright, so it has an even slower fire rate than the other Magnum, And with all of those bullets, the reload speed might have been a very slow wait. Since it's not an actual weapon and can only be gotten through cheats, I guess it's not a big deal. I guess we'll go ahead and test it on the Mr. X Tyrant, see if it does any more damage than the regular Magnum. I guess we'll find out in a second. So it only took 10 shots with the custom Magnum to defeat the Mr. X Tyrant, so a tiny bit more powerful than the regular Magnum. That less of a difference when it comes to firepower. I guess it was necessary to drop it from the game, but that amount of ammo, though, on the other hand, is quite impressive. 15 bullets on a Magnum? That's not even natural. When has Resident Evil been natural enemy with their weapons? A lot of you weapon buffs would know. You've been commenting to me a lot about how unrealistic the weapons are. Alright, well, I was glad I was able to show that to you guys, since that's not even an actual weapon in this game, since it was dropped from the final version. A little bonus given to you by me, the TheGamerShankster. Alright, that is it for the custom Magnum. Alright, now for the last weapon of this review, the rocket launcher, or infinite rocket launcher if you will. M20A1 rocket launcher. This powerful weapon fires rockets and can defeat most enemies with one shot. Alright, so this is the only unlockable weapon. In this case, you just simply have to get an S rank at the end of the game. It all depends on how fast you beat the game, your hit ratio, how many first aid sprays you use, how many continues you use if you die, and how many enemies you defeat. So it's a combination of those 5 things, and like after playing the game a couple times, it's a very fast game. My record is 45 minutes. I've seen as low as like 35 minutes. Alright, so you get the rocket launcher through an S rank, and once you have it, game is cake. Because practically every enemy goes down in one shot. There's only a couple enemies that could survive one shot, and that's really the Mr. X Tyrant because he blocks it with his damn arms. I'm just gonna go through a plethora of enemies with the rocket launcher so I could show you blowing them to bits. So enjoy the little slideshow. And I'll slow-mo a couple of them as if it's a test. I'm not gonna bother just testing it out. I'm just gonna go straight to the enemy testing here. So here we go. Ha, nice try. Alright, so here's where the real test begins. I'm testing the rocket launcher on the final boss, the Neo Tyrant. I'm going to test it on both phases of it. So here we go. Well, that didn't take very long. Just like that! I just defeated the final boss in just 2 rockets. So yeah. It's an overpowered weapon. Not surprising, with the rocket launcher and all. Alright, well, that concludes Resident Evil Survivor Weapons Review. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a nice and easy review for me. It's one of the easiest I've had in a very long time. I haven't had it this easy since, like, Resident Evil 3 on the PS1. And that was almost 4 years ago. Oh, I forgot to mention, since this is on the PlayStation 1, this is the first time I've came back to the PS1 since Resident Evil 3. Kicking it old school. Alright, well, since that's the conclusion, now to discuss what my future is. I bet most of you think you know what the next weapon review is. You think it's gonna be Survivor 2. Now, normally I would've if I owned that game, but the problem is I do not own Survivor 2, nor can I really access it. I have, like, no way of reviewing Survivor 2 on a physical disc, because I cannot find it on any online store whatsoever. Unless I get like a Region 2 version from Japan, but I really don't want to go that route. The only possible way I could review Survivor 2 would be to download a PlayStation 2 emulator on my computer and do it the same way as I did here on Survivor 1. The thing is, though, I honestly feel like Survivor 2 is an unnecessary game to review the weapons of. Because if you didn't know, Survivor 2 is just Resident Evil Code Veronica in first-person view. Now, I don't know if they changed some things up a bit, such as minigames and how you use the weapons, but I looked up the weapons of Survivor 2, and it's all the same weapons from the original Code Veronica. So, I personally feel that it is unnecessary to review Survivor 2. So, as disappointing as this may sound to some of you, I am going to skip that game altogether when it comes to weapon reviews. The only time I'll ever play that game and post a video of it is when I do a Let's Play of it, and that will come in the far future. Probably. So the next weapon review, which some of you have requested for some time now, will be Resident Evil Dead Aim weapons review, which is technically Survivor 4, according to Japan. It's an interesting thing about the Survivor series. They're originally called Gun Survivor in Japan, and there were 4 total. However, Gun Survivor 3, I guess, is the game Dino Stalker. So Gun Survivor 4, the last game, is Resident Evil Dead Aim here in the United States where I reside. So that will be the next weapon review. Alright, this is Shankster94, aka TheGamerShankster. Rate, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time in Resident Evil Dead Aim weapons review. Peace out.